So my mom rushed me to the urgent care? Yeah. What's up, y'all? I am Logan Mill, and have I got a story for you. I'm going to tell y'all about the time I got knee surgery and why that happened. So all of this starts, I believe, the summer before my sophomore year of high school. I was getting ready to go into varsity cheerleading my sophomore year, so I wanted to work on my flexibility and my gymnastics. So I signed up to take an acro class and a couple of dance classes at a new dance studio. My whole life I had done musical theater, so I had been in and out of dance studios. So I chose a new dance studio this time specifically because they had an acro class. So I went to this dance studio for the first time. It seemed really cool. The people in the class seemed like they knew a lot more tricks than I did. They were all a lot more flexible than I was because I had just never been flexible my whole life. It was just always something that I struggled with. And so that whole summer I had been working on my splits. Every day I was stretching, every day I was working on my splits, and I was getting them lower and lower to the ground. So at this point in the summer, I was about this far off the ground with my splits, which is like nothing. It's like the last step of your splits is to get it all the way to the floor. So I was trying really hard. So I went to this class and I was taking it really seriously. I was trying all the tricks, but I clearly had way less gymnastics experience than the rest of the people in the class. So I was really pushing my body to do things that I had never even tried before, because dance acro is a lot different than like gymnastics tumbling, which is what I had done in the past. So this stuff was really difficult and really weird for my body. I had never done it before. So I'm in the class and we're doing this stunt, which is, if I remember it correctly, I think you did a front like somersault and then you went into the splits like in the middle as you were coming up or something like that. Like you had to do middle splits, which is like when your legs are like this, middle splits in the middle of like rolling. Yeah, that's the best I can do to explain what it is, because I don't know what the trick is called or anything like that. I'm pretty sure it was the first acro class I took at this place. So the teachers didn't know me very well. No one in the class knew me. Anyway, we're doing this trick and everyone's going down the line doing it. And as I go to do it, and the teacher's kind of coaching me through it, helping me do it, I come into the splits and I feel my left knee just go and pop back in. Let me tell you, I have not felt pain like the pain I felt in that knee ever in my life. I mean, it was just the split moment that the kneecap came out and it felt so horrible. I grabbed my knee, I was screaming and bawling, like crying in pain in front of all these complete strangers. And the teachers rushed over and they're like, what is it? And I was like, it's my knee, like it came out. And they're looking at it, they're like, no, like it popped back in. And I was like, okay, but it hurts. I was bawling, like it was the worst pain I had ever felt. So they were all scared that I had like torn something or done something bad to the knee. They call my mom and she pulls up in her van. I remember they carried me out into the van and they had this like pillow wrapped under my knee so that I wouldn't straighten the knee, because all I could do was like keep it bent. If I tried to straighten it, it hurt like nothing I had ever felt before. So my mom rushed me to urgent care, and honestly I don't remember the urgent care situation at all, really. I know that they looked at my knee and that they decided that it had dislocated but it had popped itself back in, luckily, and yeah, I guess, so they determined that there was no like tears or anything in my knee, that just my knee had dislocated and that it was ridiculously painful. And I believe they like wrapped my knee and gave me a knee brace for it, so to help it to not pop out again. It hurt for a few weeks. And in those few weeks, obviously I couldn't do the splits. I couldn't go back to those dance classes. I never went back to that place again. So obviously it was not their fault. Like, I was just doing a trick. My body was not used to it. I had had pretty poor knees. Like, my knees had been hurting since I was like 13. So for a couple years, my knees had been feeling pretty weak. Like, I stopped playing soccer because of it, and cheerleading was always like kind of rough on my knees. So the fact that this happened wasn't like a super surprise. It was just ridiculously painful. So the doctor had basically told my mom that if this kept happening, if my knee kept dislocating, that I should have to get surgery to fix the kneecap so that it doesn't pull out of its place. So after a few weeks, my knee had finally healed and I got back to what I was doing. I started the school year, so I started cheerleading, and I was trying to stay away from the splits, but eventually I did start doing them slowly again. Obviously I wasn't pushing my body anymore because I think that was my body's way of just telling me you're not flexible and you're never going to be. So anyway, fast forward to Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day is a really huge deal in my hometown. We have this big thing called the Turkey Day game, which is a football game between us and our rivals. And it's a really big deal. People have like written books about it and stuff. It's a big deal. The cheerleaders are really into it. We do a lot of prep to get ready for it. We do a huge performance. It's like the biggest thing that the cheerleaders do all year is their Turkey Day performance. And so at the game, we also try to do really cool stunts that we haven't done before. So I was supposed to be the flyer in one of these stunts, and I was really excited to do it. It was a new stunt that we had never done before, so it was going to be a really fun game. So we're at the track and we're all warming up. We've done our stunt a few times and we're warming up, we're practicing cheers, all the sorts of things cheerleaders do before a game. We start to stretch, and so I'm stretching with two of my friends and I go into the splits. Which, I know what you're thinking, that's a really stupid thing to do. And you're right, it was, because I'm in the middle of my splits and my knee dislocates. I feel that same just like horrible, horrible pain that you should never feel. It's so like disgusting and uncomfortable, and it's so painful. And I just start screaming my coach's name. And obviously they knew about my previous injury, and so my coach runs over, she's like freaking out. They carry me and put me on the bench. And yes, also, if you're also thinking, why weren't you wearing the brace that you were given? Yeah, again, bad decision. It was the Turkey Day game and I didn't want to have a knee brace on. Bad decisions. And so my knee dislocated right before the Turkey Day game, literally minutes before the big game of the year. They call my mom and I tell her to bring my knee brace. I also tell her to bring medication because we still had medication left over from the last time my knee dislocated. And I was just bawling sitting on the bench because one, I was about to miss the best game of the year. Two, because I was in extreme pain. And three, because I realized that this was the second time my knee dislocated, and it was so close to the last time it happened, so I knew that my mom was going to tell me that I was going to have surgery. And of course, at this point, I wanted to have the surgery because if this was going to keep happening and I was going to keep feeling this pain, that's a no-go for me. I was not okay with this happening again. So my mom's on her way to the football field and the national anthem starts playing. I'm crying my eyes out because I'm in so much pain, and my coach is just sitting next to me like rubbing my back like, calm down, it's gonna be okay. So fast forward a couple months later, no, it was just a month later. Yeah, just a month later, I go to get my surgery done. And what's really funny is that my brother broke his wrist around the same time, and he had to get surgery to like replace the bones in his wrist or whatever, or his arm. So we actually ended up having surgery on the same day, which was super fun. So it was just a very eventful day for my family. So I got the knee surgery done. I had a huge cast like going down my entire leg, and I had crutches, the whole shebang. I had a wheelchair a lot of the time because even with the crutches with my leg dangling, it like hurt my knee really bad. So I actually got to be in a wheelchair sometimes. It was a pretty long process. I mean, it was a like walkout surgery, as in I got to leave as soon as the surgery was done, which was nice. And I was going to school at the time. So it was a lot of like using the elevator at the school. And at my high school, there's 2 elevators, but they're on opposite sides of the building. There's not one in the middle. So I would have to walk to either end of the school to get on the elevator. And then if my class was on the other end, I was literally just walking back and forth in my school a lot. And it was tiring and terrible, especially with the crutches. And then I actually took the next part of cheerleading, the basketball season. I took that off and just didn't come back to cheer because the first year I broke my tailbone. Go check out that story time if you haven't heard it. And the second year I had to have knee surgery. So I was just a little exhausted and I took a semester off from cheerleading. And I also had to go to a lot of therapy to rehab my knee after the surgery, so I had to do really weird stuff. Like one of the exercises was to put my foot into a bucket of popcorn kernels and move my foot around. I know it sounds really weird, but it actually definitely worked my knee because it would hurt so bad when I was done. I had to do a lot of like the bicycle, and they tried to have me do lunges, but they ultimately told me to just never do lunges again. And I don't. I still to this day try really hard not to ever do lunges because it really does hurt so bad. And my other knee is pretty bad too. I'm surprised, honestly, that it hasn't dislocated yet, but let's hope that it doesn't because I really don't want to have surgery again. So luckily, my right knee is holding up. My left knee, it hasn't dislocated again since the surgery, so clearly the surgery did its job. So that's the story, and I hope you guys liked it. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. That was not a fun story.